Dagger Directive is a first-person shooter born from the nostalgia of late 90s, early 2000s first-person tactical shooters, and I can quite comfortably say that it absolutely nails the feel of a late 90s, early 2000s first-person shooter. But then it also adds a level of 2025 design and modern sort of technological advances we've had since then to the game. And using the tools we have in 2025, you could tell this game at its core has something really unique about it, at the same time as feeling very familiar to those of us that grew up in that time period. If you grew up with games like Rainbow Six, Delta Force, Desert Storm, all back in the day, I think that Dagger Directive is going to feel really familiar in a lot of ways, but also leaves behind a lot of the clunkiness that games from the late 90s had. As you get into the game, one of the things you'll see in the character creation, your character here is that quintessential 90s photograph of someone's actual face painted on a model, and it looks absolutely perfect. We can create a name, set it to hardcore, skip your tutorials, choose a couple of different voice lines, and everything here is very reminiscent of the same nostalgic FPS from back in the day, including the actual reticule itself, with it being that sort of sniper scope we've all come to know and love. We have a few different options between making our character look like some sort of SAS soldier or someone from Desert Storm or Spec Ops in black, which is my personal favorite, is that black aesthetic. But generally the customization is pretty basic. I think it keeps in line with that aspect of it being a late 90s, early 2000s sort of first person shooter. One of the things I'm going to do is pick the United Kingdom, and I'm going to click create. When you load into the game, this is one of those parts of the games that does feel like it's been brought up into the modern era, where its graphical style is still set in that pixelated, blocky fashion. The actual layout of the ship is very much in the 21st century. We can go in here, recustomize our character if there's anything wrong with it that you didn't like before. We can go and have a look at the armory, where we can pick our weapons either off the shelves or go into our loadouts. There's a few standard loadouts here. All these objects are based in the real world. It's one of those things that I absolutely love, is when a game will embed objects into the real world and let you play around with them as they are part of the world itself, and not necessarily just menus on menus on menus. And I think this is something, back in the day, this would have all been a menu, but having it embedded in the real world both feels nostalgic in the way it's laid out with giant monitors and guns on the wall, but also has that sense of bringing it back into that modern day reality. The other thing we have on the Poseidon here is the actual mission board itself, which is in the room we started. So everything in this game is interacted with in the real world. So we can pick our first mission here, and it's going to give us a briefing, just like those old school games, where it tells us what needs to be done in the mission, what your objectives are, where you're going. You can select between normal and hard difficulties. Completing each one gives you a completion star, and you can change the time of day as well. So we'll make it a little bit earlier in the day. You can track where the missions are on the map as you go through the campaign. I've completed like 5 missions, and all of them they're fine. They're nothing extraordinary. They are not a new level of benchmarking of mission design or anything like that. They are very similar to that, going from objective to objective in any other sort of old school shooter. It gave me vibes of like an Arma 3 campaign, and I did appreciate its simplicity and its focus on what this game actually is. Now we've picked our mission, we're going to go in here and we are going to pick a loadout of whatever guns we want, from rifles and sniper rifles to javelins, a gun that quite frankly no one wants to use, including a set of drones that you can fly around in to scope out areas and stuff like that. So we will go with the recommended equipment, and if we go into our inventory here, you can see that You have each weapon, you have pouches for specific things, a backpack that can hold anything, as well as a series of weapons that you can customize in other ways. So you can see this M4A1 I have where I put it on the floor, and it's actually on the floor, and then I can pick it back up. You can interact with it outside of menus as well, so we can go and click F, and it's back in our slot there. But you can also take off the cogs, you can take off the silencer, you can take off the grenade launcher, and even swap out a magazine. And then the actual attachments from the weapon are individual aspects of the game as well that you can interact with. And this is one of those parts of the game that is an upgrade from 1990s design sensibilities, as players of those games from back in the day are used to. So you can go through, you can create a loadout of weapons. I'm actually going to change this sniper rifle because I'm not a fan of the M24, so we're going to put this on the floor. We are going to go and find the PSG. So we'll just sort out some of our magazines here. We've got some grenades, we've got a silenced sniper rifle, we've got a silenced pistol, and we've got a silenced M4A1. We're going to go for a little bit more of the stealthy approach. And this here highlights the level of customizability and choice that this game has to offer, where you pick your own loadout. You decide if you want to go in heavy, with maybe like an AK and a javelin, or if you want to go in a little bit slightly quieter like me with a silenced sniper rifle and a silenced M4A1. We've even tested out some guns here as well, so we can load up our sniper rifle. Right here we have one of these nostalgic design and UI aspects of a shooter from the early 2000s, late 90s, where the scope of the actual sight itself is separate from the weapon. There's no like Call of Duty aim down sights or ADS that we have nowadays, and this is how it was back in the day. But this game again takes that idea of a nostalgic first person shooter and brings it up to the 21st century, because we have lean mechanics, and then when you actually go to lean around a corner, it changes the side of the screen that the scope is on, so that you still have a vision to the right and to the left, and you can actually see around the corner here as well as you lean forward the scope. We can take a couple of people out here. And we can pull our binoculars, and we can zoom and do a rangefinder to the ship in the very far back. 585. And then we can go back to our scope. We could use our variable zoom on our scope here. Now you can see it's wobbling quite a lot. There's quite a lot of sway. So we're going to go prone. And you can see that level of sway has been stabilized. We've got a buff down the bottom of the corner saying, yep, you're stabilized. We can go a step further as well. We can hold V and have a hold breath. And everything in this game, all the design aspects, all the UX design, is all bright colors, blocky, pixely. Again, feeding into that nostalgic value of a early 2000s first-person shooter. So right here, we're going to increase our rangefinder to 600. We're going to pick our target. We're going to hold our breath. Not that we need to at this sort of, when we are laying prone like this, the weapon is quite stable, as we do have a bipod on this weapon. We can hold our breath just to make that sure we are getting this shot, fire, and hit. And you noticed a couple of things from that. One, drop. If we shot over here, we miss. So the weapon and the bullets, the ballistics, does have drop. It also has travel time with how long it takes for the bullet to actually travel that distance. So when you're making shots, you do need to take that into consideration. Let's get into an actual mission itself. See how a mission is actually structured in the game as well. So as we're coming into the mission here, we have these nice little intros, freedom of movement and around the chopper, being able to shoot. There's nothing here holding you back from just shooting stuff around. We have a little bit more of a brief here about where we're going to go, what the mission is. We have landmarks in the background. You see that red light, which is part of the tower, which is one of our objectives. We could press M here, and again, we get this nostalgic feeling map, the difficulty up here. As far as I can see, there's no day-night cycle, which I would think would be an interesting idea if it had a day-night cycle for like long form missions. But I also don't think that I have played a mission yet that is long enough to warrant a day-night cycle. You can pick your time of day and then go in sort of dark, stealthy, using your night vision goggles that you have access to and stuff like this. On this map here, we have our waypoints. We have our objectives. None of these things are going to be in the actual world itself. It's all going to be done with map markers and compasses at the top of the game and stuff like this. Even when you set a ping point with your binoculars, if you press F and ping, you see there's nothing actually in the world, but you see on the compass along the top, if I do it over here, you can see a little box pops up, and you can see as well on the map that I have pinged. And that's because this game also supports multiplayer, which I am really intrigued about having a look into, but I have not tested it yet. Which is playing out some of these missions with friends of mine, I think could be really, really cool. That tactical first-person shooter is something me and my friendship group really, really love, and being a Habit 2025 version of a game like Delta Force would be really enjoyable in my head. So I am looking forward to trying that out. So right here, we're going to make our way to the first waypoint. Again, there's nothing on the screen. There's no, you've made it to the first waypoint. It's all about looking around, looking at your surroundings, determining where your waypoint is on the map, and making your way to them. Right, we can then start walking our way up the road here to the abandoned farm and seeing if we can clear that out. We can see that the abandoned farm is about 330 meters away, so not that far away. And while we're walking towards it, I want to take you through the visuals of the game, because I don't think it's a bad looking game. I think it's a nostalgic looking game. I think it's an older looking game, but I don't think it's a bad looking game. Lighting is good. Shadows are nice. The pixely art style is something I'm actually a real fan of. One of the things I think the game does suffer from a little bit is the AA. You may be able to see on the video here that the level of AA around all the trees is very fuzzy, and the amount of foliage that is on the ground makes aspects of the game look very fuzzy. So I think a better implementation of an AA would be desirable. Generally, I think the actual game looks pretty pleasing. I like the fact that all attachments are model. If I take my ACOG off the gun, it disappears. I can no longer use a scope right now. I'm right-clicking to go into ADS, and I can't because I don't have the ACOG, so I can put the ACOG back on and I get my ACOG scope. I can even switch out my scope of the from my sniper rifle onto the M1A1. As it is interchangeable, you can see their compatibility listings, and I have a different type of scope now with variable zoom on my assault rifle. So there's a lot of freedom to do with what you can attach to your weapon and how you want your kit. I can press T here and get access to my grenade launcher. That has a slightly different scope, and you can even see the end of my silencer in that scope view. So the actual modeling itself is quite detailed and in-depth, and it's something that I really, really enjoy. We can see here, there, a couple of guys on the road up front. We're going to pull out our binoculars and range find them. There they are. So we're going to try and do this as quiet as possible to highlight sniping and stealth a little bit, as well as a little bit of AI. I feel like you can gauge AI relatively well when using stealth in a video game. How do enemies react to you being stealthy? How do they react to other people being taken down when they don't necessarily know who took them down or where they got taken down from? Because there's a few aspects of this game that I think do need some work, and I think that even though this game is a very, very good core... Oh, I was spotted. And we got a collat. Not bad. I think quite a lot of the core aspects of the game are in the heading in the right directions. I do think there are multiple areas of the game that need quite vast improvements. I think this is a very solid groundwork to develop a game from, and I'm glad it's in early access, because I can say, hey, we're going to have some more development time put into this. We can help support the development of this game that, quite frankly, I don't think would exist without early access. And we can see where the developers take it and grow and push in our feedback. You can see there the AI throwing out some smokes. One of the things I would like from this game is it gives you access to absolutely everything from the get-go. All equipment, all attachments, you have access to it all. And I think that one of the aspects of progression that I would like to see in the game is is where you have a base set of equipment, maybe a sniper and silencers and a base set of weaponry. But as you go through the game, you can scavenge enemy equipment and bring it back to your ship to then progress amount of equipment you have access to complete missions in the way you would like to in the game. I think that's a cool kind of mixture of this single-player campaign with maybe a little bit of an extraction shooter theme there as well. But I think the options there maybe to add that kind of that level of campaign into the game, maybe like a rogue campaign or something like that, where you're increasing your tool sets as the game continues. I think the way the developers have set it out right now is, hey, here is a campaign, play it how you want, use what tools you want to use, and that kind of thing. And I think that feels very nostalgic to that late 90s, early 2000s FPS vibe. So it does work very, very well. So one of the things that I have issues with in this game is the damage model. Part of a tactical FPS is being able to shoot well. Killing people in this game is very easy. Now, there is a aspect to the game where if I shoot someone in the head in a tactical first-person shooter, they should die. If I put a bullet in someone's head, not into armor or anything like that, but one of the issues that this game has is that it doesn't matter where you shoot them. It could be in the foot, it could be in the body, it could be in the head. They are going to die. And that makes killing enemies very, very easy. Right, we can see this guy here. We're going to shoot him in the chest. Dies straight away. One of the issues is it makes gunplay trivial. I don't need to really aim. I just need to shoot in their general direction, and they go down. That's one of the main issues I have with the game. It's not necessarily the gunplay itself. The fact that how easy it is to take down an enemy takes away from the gunplay. You have all these kits, red dots, the different types of scopes, zooming in, making sure that the actual ballistics of the game have the ability to lock in a 1,000-meter shot using rangefinders and adjusting your scope's sighting and making that shot and hitting the perfect shot. But one of the issues it has is that that perfect shot becomes trivial when all you have to do is tap them in the hand and they die, where making sure you're hitting those headshots doesn't really do anything in the game. And that is a little bit upsetting. Wait for things to calm down a bit. Oh, he was right there. And the AI is really good in some regards, where it will try and flank you, it will try and get behind you, it'll pop smokes to obscure your vision. I think that part of the AI is very good. I think there is a issue with them detecting where you are. Even if you are sniping distance, they seem to know where you are relatively quickly. This is very odd. My bullets are landing over there. Well, there are a few parts of the game that definitely need some work. That's for sure. I've had issues where my UI is completely bugged out and meant I can't pick equipment off the ground and stuff like that. Yeah, so the game isn't without flaws. It definitely has issues. One of the things as well is when you load into the game from a quick save, which we can do now, the game sort of resets its state. It doesn't necessarily load an exact snapshot of where you are at the time. So right here, we did that quick save. At that moment of having that quick save, I had my sniper rifle out. And what we can do here is we can load that quick save. And in the screenshot, I have my sniper rifle out. But when the game actually loads, you'll see that I have my M4 out. And I think that's because of the way the game deals with save states. I'm not 100% sure, but it's like it doesn't make a perfect snapshot of where you actually are in the game. It saves your location, but not necessarily what weapon you have out. But it's an early access title, and these are the things that can be worked on and do need to be worked on. I feel like when you have a save state, it should probably be exactly how you saved the game. I've popped smokes there to obscure my vision. What could be really useful here is a drone. Deploy the drone. Get our controller out. We can see guys moving up here. They're trying to take out the drone. I think on a difficulty standpoint, the enemies have the same sort of one-shot ability as you do on normal. They miss a lot. It is very, very trivial. That is a lot better on hard than it is on normal. You die a lot more. They're a lot more accurate. I do think there is a reasonable level of fairness. You have to use a lot more of your kit. You have to engage at a longer distance than you would on normal. I think hard is a lot more enjoyable way to play the game. On normal, I can just walk through bases and just tap, 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 tap. No issues whatsoever with being able to be stealthy or take things at range, because combat in the gun is so trivial due to the way the hitboxes are done. From what I can see, there are no hitboxes on enemies. It's not like headshot, handshot, body shot. Everything is just a one-shot kill. I think that is probably to a major detriment of the game. The other way as well is I think the NPCs engage you when they mark you as a hostile target, when they know where you are, is very good. There's lots of flanking, there's throwing gas grenades, that kind of thing. But I have run into issues where the way the NPCs interact with each other is very odd and doesn't work so great. I have shot enemies next to other enemies and there has been no reaction whatsoever. And I have shot one guy and the whole base has turned and looked at me. Understanding how that system works, as well as the consistency, has been a problem for me. This game has a brilliant core. It has a great idea. And I think the actual execution of a few of the systems lets it down. When it comes down to how NPCs network with each other, the way that the damage model is implemented means that all the kit you can put on your guns and the grenade launchers and the sights and the silencers becomes null and void, because if a guy is that bush over there, I could just tap him and he's dead. It doesn't matter if I shot him in the head or the hand. So I think the game is missing a health system. I think maybe even basic armor system where they've got helmets that you can't penetrate and stuff like that would be a good addition as well. But I think a health system would also be good as well. I am not sure how the health system works. I can't tell if I'm being hit or if a bullet is just flying very close to me. Your screen has this graying effect, seemingly when bullets come near you, not necessarily when you're being hit by said bullets. And I'm not talking a health bar where you can take a few shots and then you suddenly die like a Call of Duty. I'm saying something more along the lines of, if they hit you in the head, you're dead. If they hit you in the arm, you're wounded, that kind of thing. A Tarkov light system might match this game very well. But yeah, I think this game, in some aspects, is skirting along the lines of being a hardcore shooter, but then on others, completely abandons that with its hitboxes. So that shot there, I'm not sure if it hit me or if it hit the ground in front of me, because there's a bullet hole here. So was I damaged and then I replen health? They fired smoke, so I can't see much. I still don't know where they're shooting at. They thought they took out my drone. Let's check to see if they actually did take out my drone. Yeah, there it is. Dead as a dodo. Where did that shot come from? And I'm dead. And I think there's a good example of how hard AI is more engaging than normal AI. Normal doesn't have the same level of accuracy as they do in hard. So hard feels a little bit more engaging because of that difficulty level, because you have to make sure that you are killing before being spotted. Same side of that, there's a discussion to be had about difficulty and what makes good engaging difficulty. For instance, in this difficulty, I don't feel like I can go in like a Rainbow Six squad and do a room-to-room clearing of, let's say, a village. Because the second I am seen at that kind of ranges, I die instantly. It's because of the health system being basically non-existent. But when I play that same style in normal mode, I can go in and just tap, 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 because once again, there's no health system, there's no armor system, there's no hitboxes. Everything is very trivial, making the game's engagement feel trivial. And I think that's a real shame, because the game has a great core. It's just the systems that are in the game don't back up the initial of setting up your weapons, going into the missions, this milsim kind of setting, and then you go into an actual mission itself where you could be walking along a few kilometers to get to your objective, and then you just tap, 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 kill away. So I think for the game to move forward, they need to make a few improvements in a health system that thematically matches the game they are trying to create. And I also think they need to look into the reactions of NPCs when targets are dying around them. One thing I think they've got really right, though, is how those NPCs then engage with the player. Lots of flanking, smoke grenades, cutting off vision. One thing I haven't seen is them engage with sort of explosive grenades, only ever smoke grenades. But genuinely, I think this is a fantastic start to a core experience of this nostalgic FPS. I think the UI, I think the UX matches it very, very well. You can tell they have played those old school FPS games and found issues that they want to fix using modern technology. For instance, the leaning left and right with the reticule changing the side of the screen to not actually cover up your vision. Because that is one of the issues with this type of reticule, is if I'm looking over here, the right hand side of my screen is basically useless. There could be a guy right there, right in front of me, and I wouldn't know it. But this being able to hot swap as well as H changing what hand your gun is, and that changing the where your reticule is, actually fixes this. So you can be going around and looking across the horizon there, changing the hand your weapon is in to then check your left hand side more accurately as you go through and stalk your enemy. I think Dagger Directive is a really good time for those of you that have a fondness or a nostalgia for those older first-person shooters. I think there's a few hours of good fun to be had here, and I've certainly had 3 to 4 hours of good fun with it. But due to the lack of enhancements that I've already talked about, I don't think I can go further than that. I really hope that come the 1.0 launch, that all aspects of this game are engaging enough where I want to interact with the rest of the campaigns. I also think come that 1.0 launch, a campaign editor or workshop support needs to be added so that the community can continue their journey with Dagger Directive, and the community can go out and create missions and campaigns that can be shared across the community. So yeah guys, thanks for watching this video. If you have enjoyed it, please hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already, and make sure you're following the Discord and the Twitch channel for the research streams. So I'll see you all guys really, really soon, and thanks for watching. Bye.